Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live, right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter. My name is Bryson Carver. I'm back, and I got a lot to say. We've got a great show for you guys tonight. Obviously, missed a possible last 5 shows. I had the flu. It wasn't fun, but I'm back, and it's great to be back. We got some breaking news from this morning that I've been waiting a long time for. This breaking news I'm going to touch on, get right into it to start the show, as well as the Golden State Warriors. My Golden State Warriors, of course, I am repping one Klay Thompson, of course, wearing these dope black jerseys. My Warriors are absolutely taking apart the Memphis Grizzlies in round 2 of the playoffs, as I said they would. I'll discuss that, as well as James Harden. My goodness, man, showed up last night. I've been as critical as anybody of James Harden in the postseason, but I'm still skeptical, and I'll discuss that later in the show, as well as the Dallas-Phoenix series, which is now tied 2-2. I said this thing's going 7. Phoenix going to win, but it's going 7. Not for the reasons that I thought it would be thus far through the first 4 games. I'll discuss that, as well as Chris Paul's family being attacked by some dope in the stands in Dallas. And at the end of the show, I'll discuss the controversial ending to the Bucks and Celtics Game 3, which, by the way, Game 4 of that series is tonight. It's a must-win for the Boston Celtics, man. They got to win tonight, try and even this up the series and make it 2-2 going back home to Boston. If they don't, and it's 3-1 Milwaukee, I think this baby is a wrap. So, a lot to discuss. Man, I've been chomping at the bit, folks, to be back in this arena, as the great Teddy Roosevelt would put it. But we're back, and we got some breaking news from this morning from the man himself, Adrian Wojnarowski. According to Woj, and y'all know he's not wrong much, but the tweet up right now for the streaming audience. According to Woj, Denver Nuggets center Nikola Jokic has been voted the NBA's most valuable player for a second consecutive season, sources tell ESPN. A formal announcement is expected this week. So this is obviously news that anybody who's been following Carving It Up for any amount of time knows that I've been dreading this news for a very long time. I said last year that Nikola Jokic was not the MVP, but I already made that case. I already did a show last year for why he was not the 2021 MVP and why it should have been either Steph Curry, who would have been my MVP, or Chris Paul, who I wouldn't have had an issue with. I've made that case. I'm going to make the case today in 2022. So let's talk about, first of all, the historical ramifications of this, of Nikola Jokic becoming a back-to-back MVP. He now joins a very exclusive club, an exclusive club that, folks, he is not in any way, shape, or form fit to be a part of players who have won consecutive most valuable players. More on that middle word. That middle letter in just a second. The first player in NBA history to win consecutive most valuable players, he actually won 3 straight, was the great Bill Russell. And before I get into Bill Russell, what you're going to see, with the exception of one of these MVPs, is we cannot tell the story of the game of basketball without them. Like, if we take them out, you are taking a big chunk of NBA history away. Okay? Bill Russell won 3 straight MVPs from the years 1960 to 1962. What do we know? If you know nothing else, if you never saw Bill Russell play, which the vast majority of us did not see Bill Russell play, but what does everybody know about Bill Russell? He's got more rings than he has fingers, right? 11 rings. 11 rings in 13 years, 11-1 record in the NBA Finals. Everybody knows that about Bill Russell, right? You can't tell the story of the NBA without Bill Russell. The second player to win consecutive MVPs, he also won 3 straight, was one Wilt Chamberlain, who did it 1965, 66, and 67. What does everybody know about Wilt Chamberlain? He's got the most unbreakable records in NBA history. 100 points in a game. Nobody's ever going to do that. We think. But can we envision anybody, even in today's NBA, which Lord knows is as skilled as it's ever been? I can't see anybody in today's NBA scoring 100 points in a game. I mean, 100 points? What? He has the rebounding record, which you look at the numbers for rebounding, he's not going to be caught in that department. He once had 55 rebounds in a single game. Like, I always joke on the show. Anytime that a player does something historic and they're on the same list as Wilt Chamberlain, you did something really good. If you are on any list with Wilt Chamberlain, you did something good. It is a guarantee, right? And so Wilt Chamberlain, you can't tell the story of the NBA without him. Even though he only has 2 championships with all that talent. You can't tell the story of the National Basketball Association without Wilt the Stilt. The third player to do it was Larry Bird, Larry Legend, who also did it 3 straight times from the years 1983 to 1985. Well, come on. Larry Bird and the next player I'm going to mention, a couple of players I'm going to mention down the road, Magic Johnson, saved the NBA. You got to realize, folks, in the 70s, nobody cared about the NBA. People honestly care more about the ABA, the American Basketball Association, and then, of course, the two merged. Magic and Bird came in the league at the same year, 1979. They had just had an epic duel in the national championship. Larry Bird's, little old Indiana State came up short against Magic Johnson's Michigan State Spartans, one of the blue bloods of college basketball. They both come into the league, both dominate, go toe-to-toe year after year after year in the finals. It's the greatest player rivalry in NBA history. Larry Bird, probably the greatest Celtic of all time. I think we would all agree with that. One of the greatest shooters, one of the greatest Celtics, 3 straight MVPs. He's the last guy to do that. The next guy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who did it twice from the years 1970 to 1971, and 1975 to 1976. What does everybody know about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? All-time leading scorer in NBA history. Most unstoppable shot in NBA history. The sky hook, right? Even when he came out, when they did the NBA 75 greatest players of all time, what did Kareem do? Kareem walked out there. He did his little sky hook and, walked to take his place amongst, the rest of the greats. That's what we all know about Kareem. If you look at high school, college, NBA, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest player ever. If you look at high school and college, right? He's one of the greatest of all time. An argument can be made, he might be the best player ever. 6 championships, 6 regular season MVPs, right? Kareem did it twice. This is the guys Jokic is on the same list with. Moses Malone, 2 straight MVPs. Moses Malone played with Dr. J with the Philadelphia 76ers. It's the last championship the Sixers won back in 1981. Argument can be made Moses Malone might have been the best player on that team. Because once he joined, that was one of the greatest teams in NBA history, those 76ers teams of the late 70s, early 80s. Some of the greatest teams in NBA history. Headlined by Dr. J and Moses Malone. He's got 2 MVPs. Keep looking down the list. Magic Johnson. Showtime Lakers, greatest point guard of all time. Some argue the greatest Laker of all time. Magic Johnson, 6'9", greatest point guard ever. We know about the smile, Showtime, everything. This is the list that Jokic is on now. Okay. Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I would not say consensus, but I would say the majority of fans, myself included, say greatest basketball player who ever lived. He won 2 straight MVPs. We all know about the 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs. We know the legend of Michael Jordan. We know the aura of Michael Jordan that still carries on to this very day. Shoe sales. We saw how he was honored, how he was honored at the NBA 75th anniversary team celebration. Michael Jordan's the GOAT. Of course, he's got consecutive MVPs. Tim Duncan, greatest player in the history of his position. Greatest power forward of all time, right? Every championship that the Spurs have ever won, Tim Duncan's been a part of it, right? The big fundamental, never the flashiest player ever, but was one of the greatest players ever in terms of production. Go back and look at the finals against the Detroit Pistons. I think it was 2005 that the Spurs won against the Pistons. And go look at Tim Duncan's numbers from that Game 7 and tell me he's not one of the 10 greatest players of all time. Tim Duncan, 2 straight MVPs from the years 2001 to 2002. Steve Nash, the only guy on this list that I'm like, don't know if he even deserved one. He definitely took an stolen MVP from Kobe. We know that. And he probably stole an MVP from Shaq. So Steve Nash is the only one I got issues with. Okay? LeBron James, who did it twice from the years 2008 to 2009 and 2011 to 2012. The one gap year in between was Derrick Rose when he won it in 2010. LeBron James. I mean, come on now. Come on. Longest prime of any player, maybe in sports history, aside from Tom Brady. A guy who a pretty big chunk of people say he's the greatest of all time. LeBron's the greatest ever. That's what a lot of people say. And I've religiously said in the show, he's got a chance, in my view. I don't think he's there yet. I think he's definitely number 2. He's got a shot to be the GOAT, absolutely. He's going to pass Kareem next season. LeBron did it twice. Wardell Stephen Curry II, my favorite basketball player of all time, the man who is the reason that I started watching the game in 2013. Steph Curry, greatest shooter of all time, consensus, everybody agrees with that. Really led the Warriors from the gutter. The Warriors were a laughingstock organization. Today, 3 championships, right? Contending for one, I believe, are going to win a 4th this season. I'll talk about the Warriors later in the show. And Steph Curry has the only unanimous MVP in NBA history. It's never been done before. Steph Curry's won 2 straight MVPs. And finally, Giannis. Giannis Antetokounmpo. A guy who, in my view, currently, today, is the best player in basketball. He is certainly the best two-way player in basketball. His second MVP, he also won Defensive Player of the Year. Similar to Steph, took the Bucks from the gutter, a garbage organization, to they got a chance to win 2 straight championships. Are you kidding me? And then Nikola Jokic, who has been to 1 conference finals. Bryson, it's not a postseason award. First of all, it's part of my problem with it. But secondly, I've said religiously on this show, I would vote Giannis MVP. I think no player in the NBA affects both sides of the basketball more than Giannis Antetokounmpo. But if Joel Embiid won the award, you would hear no complaints from this show. Given the Ben Simmons crap that he had to deal with, given that Doc Rivers is his head coach, love Doc Rivers, love that man. But we know about his postseason failures. Given that the Sixers roster was, he stayed healthy. We saw what he averaged this season, led the league in scoring. We know that. And now, we're seeing Joel Embiid's value coming back for the 76ers, completely turning that series around against the Miami Heat. We know his value. And so the thing is, the thing that bothers me above all else is the one consistency with the NBA MVP, with the NBA media. They changed the narrative like nobody's business. That creaking sound, you hear that creaking sound? That's them shifting the goalpost right now as we speak for next year's MVP. Okay? Because the consistent thing is, well, Nikola Jokic had a better year this year than he did last year, and because last year he won MVP, then even though the Nuggets are the 6th seed in the weaker conference, we just got to give him the MVP, don't we? Just because his numbers were better. Hold up. Wait a minute. Time out. James Harden won the MVP in 2018. Don't think he should have, but that's another discussion for another day. James Harden won MVP in 2018. Okay. James Harden that season, okay, averaged, do I have the number right here? Yes. James Harden averaged 30 points a game that season. His MVP season. The next season, he averaged 36 and did not win. But he was better. As a matter of fact, Houston had more injuries the year prior. They had to deal with more internal stuff. They had a Carmelo Anthony issue. Chris Paul dealt with injuries. James Harden kept the Rockets alive, averaged more points than he ever had in his career, and led the league in scoring and did not win MVP. Russell Westbrook averaged a triple-double in 2017, won MVP. He averaged triple-double again the next season. Didn't finish in the top 3. He did it again the next year. Did not finish in the top 5. But I thought if you duplicate an MVP season, so what am I missing? Steph Curry averaged 30 points a game in 2016. Won MVP. Last year, he averaged 32 points a game. But he doesn't win? What am I missing here? Like, if that's the narrative that we are going to push, if that is what we are going to convey, NBA media, analytic-driven media, why not Harden? Or Steph? Or Westbrook? Voted them MVP, right? To be fair, obviously, I think Steph deserved both of his MVPs in 2015-16. But if we're going to stay consistent on that narrative, then let's stay consistent on that narrative. Okay, because, and something else too. When we talk about the 3 finalists for MVP, and I see a lot of comments here from my man Grady Edwards. I promise, Grady, I'll get to these. I promise. But when we think about the 3 finalists for MVP, we think about Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay. I've always believed this. I will always believe this because I think it continues over and over and over. Postseason success validates what we think or don't think about you in the regular season. That's why I've always been a critic of James Harden. I'll get to James later in the show. This is why I've always said the fact that LeBron only has 4 MVPs is a basketball crime. It is a basketball crime, folks. The fact that, I don't want to talk about Rudy Gobert today. I don't want to talk about it. But when you think about LeBron year after year after year, puts up identical numbers to the year prior, dominates the postseason every single year in his prime, in Miami and Cleveland and the championship year in Los Angeles, excuse me, dominating the playoffs over and over. The man made 8 straight finals. 4 MVPs? That's it? Hasn't won since 2012? Excuse me? What are we doing here? And so, what you're seeing now, and I think it's so ironic, let's talk about Embiid first. Joel Embiid is out for the first 2 games of this current second-round series against the Miami Heat. James Harden's on the court for Philly. Tyrese Maxey is on the court for Philly. So is Danny Green. They get blown off the floor in the first 2 games. Neither was any doubt. Miami controlled the basketball game both times. The series shifts to Philadelphia. Joel Embiid comes back. His mere presence. Danny Green, all of a sudden he's on fire. James Harden, we saw what he did last night. Tyrese Maxey, fewer turnovers. Tobias Harris has woken up in this series. Embiid's presence. You see his numbers these 2 games. They're not MVP mind-blowing. But if you actually watch the games, you see his value. And then Giannis. And this, to me, folks, I call it poetic justice in sports. We always get it. The narrative for Jokic winning MVP is not only that he duplicated or actually improved on last year's numbers, it was that, well, doggone it, he didn't have Jamal Murray, his second best player. And y'all know I love Jamal Murray. He's one of my, love Jamal Murray. Didn't have Jamal Murray all season because he had a torn ACL. And he got the Nuggets to the playoffs. Yes, that should be commended. Absolutely. But hold on a second. No Jamal Murray in the playoffs, and the Nuggets got gentlemen swept by an elite team, the Golden State Warriors. Giannis loses his second best player, Chris Middleton. Oh, what do you know? After Chris Middleton went down, the Bucks dismantled a decent Chicago Bulls team. and currently hold a 2-1 lead over what we know to be an elite Boston team. Giannis is getting it done in the postseason. For the record, I like Jokic's head coach, Mike Malone, a lot more than Giannis's coach, Mike Budenholzer. I think it's really, really funny. Jokic loses his second best player, does nothing in the postseason. There was a time, by the way, in that series that Jokic had the worst plus minus on the Denver Nuggets. Wasn't Aaron Gordon. Wasn't DeMarcus Cousins. Wasn't Austin Rivers. Jokic, MVP, most valuable player. There was a time in the series he had the worst plus minus. That doesn't make sense. How does that work? It doesn't. He never has been the MVP. The fact that he is on a list of literally the 15 greatest players ever. Some of the 15 greatest players ever. Jordan, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Tim Duncan, Bird, Russell, Wilt, Steph, Giannis, Moses Malone. I mean, what are we doing here, guys? It's a joke. As far as I'm concerned, it is an absolute travesty and a crime, a basketball crime committed by the NBA media. And they should be ashamed of themselves, in my opinion. Got quite a few comments from my man Grady Edwards. It's great to have him back in the comments. It's great to have all you back, by the way. I'm telling you, I've missed this show so much over the past week. So having y'all support, so many of you, called and texted. I mean, I DM'd. Honest to God, I appreciate it so much. The support from you guys is just phenomenal. Y'all are the absolute best. Grady says, just want to pop in for a bit, going to dinner now, but I'm calling it now. Jokic for MVP next season when the Nuggets are the 8th seed. JK, man, on a serious note, Embiid, Giannis, Steph, and maybe even Ja are all more deserving of the MVP award. No issues with him winning it last season, but there were plenty of guys more deserving this year. In order to win back-to-back MVPs, in my opinion, he got to do something even more extraordinary, and he didn't do that. Unless you average triple-double or do something insane and you're below a 5 seed, you shouldn't be MVP, in my opinion. This officially tarnishes the award for a long time, in my opinion. Gotta go. Keep up the great show, Bryson. Well, I appreciate the nice words, Grady. and I agree with a lot of your points. I don't know if I'd have put Steph or Jock, and y'all must be shocked that I denigrated Steph ever so slightly, but Steph missed too many games. So did Ja, and I'm about to discuss this. The Grizzlies went 20-5 without Ja this season. That totally, for this season, pushes MVP case completely aside. That was why I said I couldn't have voted Embiid MVP last year, as great as he was. He missed too many games. He missed 20-plus games in only a 72-game season. Obviously, it was shortened for COVID purposes. But that's why I couldn't vote Embiid MVP last year. But this year, if he had won it, I got no problem with that. None. Embiid led his team through emotional chaos with the Ben Simmons situation. Nikola Jokic, for the second straight year, got tossed out of a playoff game. We saw some of those games in the first round against my Warriors. That Denver bench at times was a mess. Guys yelling at each other. There was pushing and shoving. And Nikola Jokic, and I'm not criticizing him for this because, look, maybe some guys just aren't built like this. Some guys aren't natural leaders. So I don't want you to be something that you're not. What I am saying is that he's not the emotional leader for the Denver Nuggets. LeBron was for years in Miami and Cleveland. Steph has been for the better part of a decade in Golden State. Giannis has been for his, the majority of his career in Milwaukee, right? So this is, again, I will reiterate once again, it is a basketball crime that the NBA media has committed for a second straight season. And I agree with you, Grady. It does. I think it does tarnish the award. Absolutely. And so to me, the fascination for next season is to see how they move the goalpost again. Right? How do we what are the qualifications for a quote-unquote most valuable player next season? Because here's what I do know. Nikola Jokic has lost 8 of his last 9 playoff games. 8 of 9. You want me to put that into record? 1-8. 1-8 in his last 9 playoff games. Giannis is coming off a championship. Embiid, are you watching Philadelphia right now? I'm just saying. My guy, Ryan Flowers, Clutch Sports Talk. I love this guy. Greek Freak should have been the MVP. He is the best player in the league. In agreement with you there, absolutely, Ryan. Like I said, I don't think when you... I don't think there's a player in the league, even if like you're not like a big Giannis fan or whatever, no player in basketball impacts both sides of the floor the way he does. No player. Like even the guys that I consider, top 5, top 10 guys, Steph and LeBron and KD and John, Luka. Some of those guys can play good defense, but they're not a guy who can lock up your best player. I mean, folks, we saw the Giannis block on DeAndre Ayton last year. That was ridiculous. That to me, that was the play of the finals. When Giannis came from the opposite side of the key and blocked DeAndre Ayton's dunk attempt, off the lob from Devin Booker. Like that was just like that. Like if you want me to give you one play to define Greek Freak, that would be it. Like it was insane. But yes, I'm voting Giannis. If you vote Embiid, I got a problem. None. No problem at all. Having you deal with the Ben Simmons drama and leading the league in scoring, keeping your team. Here's what Embiid deserves a ton of credit on. He kept his team in a good position. I think they were the 4 seed when they traded for James Harden. He kept them in a spot in the standings where Daryl Morey, the GM, could sit back and say, okay, we are a piece away. Given how our best player is playing, we are a piece away from contending. That's why they went and got James Harden. If the Sixers are the 7 seed, James Harden is not in Philadelphia today. He's not. So he deserves a ton of credit for it. And Ryan says, you're right. He's phenomenal on both ends of the court, 100%. And John Jones on the Embiid train, and he says Embiid should have won it. Again, I got no issue. None. If he had won. First center, if we're going, by position, first center to lead the NBA in scoring since the big diesel Shaquille O'Neal. That deserves points. In the tougher conference, the East, here's to me why the East is better than the West this year. All 4 of the 4 teams left in the East, at least in my view, I could see all 4 of them winning the championship. Like if you told me, if you came in a time machine from July and said the Heat, Sixers, Bucks, or Celtics, any of those teams won the championship, I'd be like, okay, yeah, that, I can't say I'm surprised by that. Whereas out West, if you told me Phoenix won it, wouldn't be surprised. Golden State won it, well, I predicted it, so of course I wouldn't be surprised. But if you told me Dallas or Memphis won it, I'd be like, didn't see that coming at all. Winning the championship? Are you kidding me? So that's sort of my defense of that. And setting his team up in a better position. Ryan says, I like Embiid, but to me, there's something missing there, even besides his injury list. Yeah, and again, he and Giannis, I think, are similar in how they dominate both ends because Embiid, obviously, himself is a great defensive player. But look, we can debate Embiid, Giannis all day. I don't have a problem with both. Me, I'm voting Giannis. Ryan, in the comments, he would vote Giannis. John Joe would vote Embiid. No problem with either. Jokic, on the other hand, is a whole different story. Whole different story. Just because you were better or you duplicated your previous MVP numbers does not mean you win the award. They didn't do that for Westbrook. They didn't do that for Harden. They didn't do that for Steph. They didn't do that for Giannis. So what's the criteria? That's my question. And it's been my question for years. What is the criteria for an MVP? My criteria hadn't changed. I'm sure you, the listener, the viewer, your criteria hasn't changed. The NBA media's, it is as flip-floppy as it gets. The NFL media hasn't changed with this award. the baseball media, and I got my numerous issues with them. They, for the most part, they keep it consistent. The NBA media, man, they just flip-flop as much as anybody. Let's see. Ryan says, but the NBA has a problem because the best player isn't American and Giannis isn't dynamic off the court. Yeah, and I think, although with the best player being American, I don't think that necessarily hurts the league because, look, you see the ratings and they're great. Like the NBA ratings, per usual, are much better in the postseason than it is in the regular season because it's the same thing with the NFL because there's a greater sense of urgency in the postseason. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why the NBA was at its most popular when Jordan was dominating in the 90s and LeBron was dominating, for the better part of 15 years of his career. I do think some of it being born in America does help because it is an American league, also the Toronto Raptors. But I do think, though, Ryan, that I think NBA, because it's become much more of a global sport, I think people have sort of wrapped their arms around the idea that the best player can be a foreign player. I think that has changed since Giannis and, to my chagrin, the rise of Jokic in the MVP rankings, and even Joel Embiid. Like, all three players are foreign guys. So I think that's how the league has changed. And, certainly it's, very similar sort of to international soccer in some ways. Luka Doncic, if you told me he's going to win MVP at some point in his career, that wouldn't shock anybody, right? So, and that's, to me, that's, what makes the NBA great. But yeah, Giannis should have been MVP. And if it's Embiid, don't have an issue. All right, 30 minutes spent on Nikola Jokic is 32 minutes or so. 30, 32, whatever it was, that's too much time to be spent on Nikola Jokic. And John says Luka's next. Hey, very well could be the case. If he comes in, if he comes in the next season in shape, that could certainly be a nice little narrative that the media could run with. Let's move on though to let's move on to teams that are actually playing, which the Nuggets aren't. Let's start with my Golden State Warriors taking on the Memphis Grizzlies. Unfortunately, I was not here, obviously, for the last, again, like I said, I missed a possible 5 shows. I wasn't here to, on the show, do my second round predictions. However, I did do those on Instagram. You could check those out now. I haven't, this isn't revisionist history. I did my predictions. Matter of fact, let me pull them up now on my phone just to make sure I don't butcher this. Yeah, I said Suns in 7, Warriors in 5, Heat in 5, because I thought Embiid would miss more time than he missed, and Bucks in 7. Now, obviously, some of those are not going to come to fruition. Heat in 5, that's impossible now because it's a 2-2 series. But again, I thought Embiid would miss more time with the orbital issue and the concussion. But he's one tough son of a gun for going out there and playing the way he's played. But I picked Golden State in 5 games, and I caught a lot of pushback from that because the fact that, hey, listen, the Grizzlies, we all know about John Morant. He's one of the 10 best players on earth. I had him right at number 10. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal in the first 3 games of the series. Taylor Jenkins, my view, is one of the best coaches in basketball. They have a deep roster. They're good defensively. And listen, they had the second best record in the association. They won 56 games, which I could be wrong on this. That might be a franchise record. I don't know if the Grizzlies have ever won 56 games. They did that this season. And so credit where credit's due in that department. But I said going into this, given how Memphis played against Minnesota, where the Timberwolves outplayed them for the majority of that series. They did. They outplayed them in game 1 and beat them. Memphis totally dominated them in game 2. Minnesota had a 25-point lead twice and lost it both times. Okay? They outplayed Memphis in game 4 and won. They outplayed them in game 5, blew a 10-point fourth quarter lead. They outplayed them in game 6, blew another 10-point fourth quarter lead. Minnesota does not get enough credit for how many dumb shots they took in the fourth quarter of those games. But that's another conversation, for next season, I guess. But Memphis did not look impressive in that series whatsoever against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I said, Golden State's a little better than Minnesota. Not only are they a little better, obviously we know coach is a lot better. Roster's deeper than Minnesota. They do not play dumb basketball. They have the championship pedigree. This is a whole different monster you're running into if you're the Memphis Grizzlies. And this is why I said, listen, Memphis, you had a great year. You really did. But the adults just walked in the room. The kids need to leave the room. The adults walked in. It's the adults been there and done that. And the adults of the Golden State Warriors. Steph, Clay, Draymond, they've been there, done that. Wiggins is showing up big time, especially in the second round. He's leading the Warriors in rebounding. Jordan Poole, and I'm about to get into the Jordan Poole, John Morant play, so I'm not gonna leave that out. But Jordan Poole, Warriors gonna have to pay him a lot of money to keep him. I'm a little worried that we might have to get rid of Andrew Wiggins in order to keep Poole. He's phenomenal, and this is why I said a few weeks ago when he started his playoff tear, I said, okay, it is officially the Splash Triplets. Ain't no Splash Brothers anymore. It's the Splash Triplets. It's Curry, it's Thompson, it's Poole. And you talk about the Clay called it the pool party. We know what he's doing. Otto Porter Jr., my goodness, phenomenal Saturday night. Had the best plus minus on the floor. Gave the Warriors great minutes. Went 5 for 7 from the field. Hit some big shots. Grabbed some big rebounds. Kevon Looney's giving them good minutes. Even without Gary Payton II, Golden State is still crazy deep. They play smart basketball. They're incredible in the defensive end. And what's to me the shock of the series, what even I as a Warriors fan didn't see coming, Memphis led basketball in rebounding. Golden State, who we know is a much smaller team than Memphis is, they're beating them in this series in the rebounding department. They're beating them. And their tallest player in the rotation is Kevon Looney, who's like 6'9". They got 6'6" Draymond Green playing the 5, which he's done obviously for years with the death lineup. Right? You've got, at times, he played more in the first round than he has in the second round. But Bielitsa, I believe today's his birthday too. Happy birthday, Bielitsa. But he's like 6'8". Like the Warriors, that was sort of the thing that all the analysts talked about coming in is like, man, they're good. They have no size. Well, when you have a team as versatile and as long as the Warriors, you can overcome that. And especially against a team in Memphis that is really, really young. Ja's phenomenal. I get that. We know what he brings to the table. But everybody else, do we really trust Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones, Clark, Jaren Jackson? I mean, I'm not sure if we can trust them to go toe-to-toe with probably the most experienced team left in the playoffs. A team that has won 3 championships in the previous 7 seasons. So this is why I said, Memphis, you truly had a great season. It's over. It's like Kenny Smith. Remember Kenny Smith years ago? When Vince Carter had his great dunk contest, ironically, was at Golden State, was at the old Oracle Arena. Remember Kenny Smith? It's over, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. It's over. Dubs are winning tonight by 20. They're 9.5-point favorites currently as we speak. And they're going to take care of business and close the series out in Memphis in Game 5. And we're going to be on to the Western Conference Finals, business as usual. And my man, Ryan Flowers, I appreciate you, dude. Ryan and I are agreeing a lot today. Ryan says, Warriors Bucks Finals. Mr. Flowers, that is exactly what I predicted back in October. And I'm absolutely standing by it today. I think the Bucks are getting the finals out east, and my Dubs are getting to the finals out west. And we will see what we will see. Of course, I'll pick my Warriors. Before the season, I said they'd win in 7 games in the finals over Milwaukee. But this is why I said, continuing with the Warriors. I said this all season long. You can look at the tape. I've said it all season long. That no team in the Western Conference outside of the Phoenix Suns would take the Golden State Warriors more than 5 games. I said that since November, December, like early season. I've been saying this. Memphis isn't. Utah isn't. Denver definitely isn't. Minnesota isn't. Doesn't matter. Unless your name is the Phoenix Suns, Nobody in the Western Conference could take the Golden State Warriors even to a game 6. And we are seeing that manifest itself today. They scored 142 points, which they haven't done since I think Wilt was with the Warriors. And that was, again, we know the numbers Wilt put up. Ryan says that will be a good series. Absolutely. I mean, I think it'll be great for the NBA because, in my opinion, not only would you have the two best teams, but in my view, personally, I think you have the two best players. I think that series, for the time being, would determine, okay, who's the best player. And it wouldn't necessarily be off of who wins the series. Who plays better, Giannis or Steph? Because to me, currently, Giannis is the best player, and I got Steph at number 2. I'm taking him over LeBron, Durant, Embiid. Definitely taking him over Jokic, Luka. Give me Steph above the rest. I mean, the other night, he scores 30, and it's like, okay, Steph scored 30. It's like, I think he's been averaging about 30 in this series, and nobody's talking about it. That's how great he is. But now to the last thing I'll talk about with this series today is the play that everybody's talking about. Not the Dillon Brooks play. I wasn't, here in time to discuss that because obviously that was a dirty play. But the Ja Morant, Jordan Poole play. So Ja Morant is right now, and I don't think we have any. No, currently we don't have any updates right now. I'll give it to you if we're able to get some from either Woj or Anthony Slater, who's the Warriors beat reporter, or Shams or anybody. Any updates on Ja Morant's status. Currently, he is doubtful to play tonight with that knee injury. So for the streaming audience, sorry for the podcast audience, but for the streaming audience, here's the play in question. So you see they double team Ja Morant half court, Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole. Poole reaches in looking for the ball, and he grabs Ja Morant's knee. Again, we're going to show this over and over. Poole's going for the ball, reaches in, and grabs Ja Morant's knee. And a lot of folks are saying, even the Grizzlies coach, Taylor Jenkins, said basically that this was a dirty play. But watch it again. Okay, that's the Poole. Right here, when they double team at half court, watch. Right there. Poole and Morant bang knees before the leg pull by Jordan Poole. They bang knees. And anybody who's ever played, I played basketball, and I've banged knees before. And let me tell you something. It friggin' hurts to bang knees with somebody. For a little bit there, it's hard to extend your knee if you bang them, hard enough. So, and that's what Poole and Ja did. They bang knees. Some fans pointed to a play earlier in the second half where Klay Thompson, wrapping him today, goes for a pump fake. Ja Morant jumps at the pump fake. Klay takes a dribble to his left, and Ja kind of lands awkwardly on that right knee. The same right knee that has kept him out for 25 games this season. Of course, the Grizzlies infamously went 20-5. At one point, I think they were 20-2 without Ja Morant. So again, it speaks to their depth. It speaks to the energy that they bring on both ends. But the postseason, folks, is a different animal. And if Ja Morant is not able to play tonight, I'm giving the Grizzlies a 0% chance to win tonight. They're not winning this game. They have a 0% chance. I don't think they're winning it if Ja plays. If he doesn't play, go back to Kenny Smith. It's over. They're not winning tonight. Golden State is a 9.5-point favorite as we speak. If I were a betting man, as I always do, during the NFL season.
Betting man.
If I were a betting man, bet the over on that one. A Golden State avalanche is coming. The Splash Triplets are going to do their thing. The supporting cast, we all know. Role players, as Shaq calls them, the others, they always play better at home. That's why I still have confidence in Miami to win the series, and I'll get to that series in just a second. But the role players are always better at home. Otto Porter Jr., Kuminga, who gave you 18 points in the starting lineup the other day. Right? Jonathan Kuminga was excellent. Kevon Looney, the role players are always better at home than they are on the road. So am I supposed to expect Jaren Jackson Jr. to go crazy from the three-point line and be, Dikembe Mutombo down low? No. Do I expect Desmond Bane to turn into Klay Thompson? I don't. Do I expect Tyus Jones to become Jason Kidd? I don't. And that's what it's going to take for Memphis to win without Ja Morant. That's great that you went 20-5 in the regular season, but as we all know, some teams take the regular season seriously, some really don't. Some teams are built for the postseason and some teams are not. Golden State is built for the postseason for a number of reasons. Great coaching, great experience, great players, great defense, great ball movement. Memphis, I mean, we've seen in this series. It is a one-man show. It's Ja, who is phenomenal, and guys. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's good. I've always been a Jaren Jackson Jr. fan. Desmond Bane, like Desmond Bane a lot. He's a heck of a shooter who himself had a pretty dirty-looking play the other day. But we'll save that for another day. And John kind of leads into a point that I was going to get into next. He says Bucks versus Mavs. I assume that's your finals prediction, John. And what's scary about Dallas is what Memphis is missing. Dallas, we know how great Luka is. Luka hasn't played well the last two games that Dallas won both. But his supporting cast is much better, and his supporting cast is way better on the defensive end than it was in years past, and all the credit for that goes to Jason Kidd, the head coach, for getting his guys to buy in the defensive end of the floor. Guys are hitting shots. Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith went crazy yesterday, but I'll save the commentary on Dallas and Phoenix for later in the show. But Memphis talking about, broke the code, and obviously referencing Steve Kerr's comments after the Gary Payton dirty play. Ja Morant tweeted, and then shocker, he deleted the tweet. And I love Ja Morant, but dude, stand by your tweet if you're going to make a big statement like this. Ja Morant tweeted, broke the code. And he posted the video of Jordan Poole grabbing his leg. First of all, that's not the play where Ja Morant got injured. And secondly, if it is, the Ja Morant has bigger knee problems than we realize. And he needs to get that checked out after the season. Because, Klay Thompson said after the game, he's like, I don't think Jordan's strong enough to hurt it. Jordan Poole is a great player. He's a great shooter, offensive, fireworks show. We don't exactly look at him as a physical specimen, If that was Embiid grabbing, we'd be like, okay, Embiid's a strong guy. There might be something to that. Jordan Poole's 6'1", 6'2". He's not hurting Ja Morant's knee like that. And like Jordan Poole said after the game, he said, I'm not that type of player. For the record, I don't think Dylan Brooks is a dirty player. I don't. But that was a dirty play. The Poole, Ja Morant, that was not a dirty play. My personal opinion, I think Ja Morant got hurt when they banged knees. Because again, anybody who knows basketball knows when you bang knees with somebody, man, it hurts. Really hurts. And I think that's what got Ja and why he's probably not going to play tonight. But all these Memphis Grizzlies, I think what I think is funny, last point, and I'll move on. The best part about this series is Memphis all year long talk about, we want that smoke. Ja Morant said, we run up the chimney. We want that smoke. And then they talk about, we're going to be a physical team in the playoffs. But then you're complaining about the physicality because Golden State can out-physical you. Anything you can do, they can do better. They are a better defensive team than you. They are a better rebounding team than you. Shot making, three-point shooting, free throw shooting. They're deeper. They're better coached. And Taylor Jenkins is a good coach. Give me Steve Kerr any day of the week. Nope. I don't think there's a coach in basketball that has better halftime adjustments than Steve Kerr. Seriously. But you want that smoke. Here you go. They don't want that smoke. Not from the Golden State Warriors. Moving on now to what was a great basketball game last night between the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers. Game 4 of the second round. Two teams who, like I said, I could absolutely see both winning a championship. Miami because of their depth. The fact that Jimmy Butler, man, he just goes into a different mode when the postseason comes around. Regular season, he's a really good player. Postseason, he's a superstar. And Jimmy Butler deserves a ton of credit for that. He scored 40 last night, by the way. But last night was all about James Harden. He scored 31 points 18 of those points came in the most important 12 minutes of the game. That would be the fourth quarter. Hit shots left and right, went 6 for 10 from 3, 8 for 18 for the field. Also gave you 9 assists and 7 rebounds. James Harden had a great game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I tweeted last night that if James Harden, he doesn't have to score 31 points. Because when you look at the shot-making ability that guys like Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris have, and obviously everybody knows about Joel Embiid, who is going to get healthier as the series rolls on, James Harden doesn't have to be the Houston James Harden. What he does need to be is a guy who controls the pace of the game, gets the shooters involved, gets, of course, Embiid involved, and knock down shots. He's never going to be efficient. James Harden's never been an efficient player. It's unfair to ask him to be efficient now in the later stages of his career. But knock down big shots when they matter, which he did last night, to his credit. Always give credit where credit's due on this show. But here's the thing. It's 2-2 series now. And James Harden's biggest playoff flameouts have come in these Game 5, Game 6, and especially Game 7s. I won't go through the playoff history now. We don't have enough time. I'm not going to do that today. But now the pressure for James Harden is this. Can you do it again? Doesn't have to be 31 points, 6 for 10 from 3. Doesn't have to be that. Doesn't have to be 18 points in the fourth quarter. Can you control the pace of the game and hit big shots when they matter? It wasn't about the scoring output for me. It was when he hit the shots. It was how he got guys involved. That's always been my issue with James Harden. He does that in the regular season. Not necessarily in the postseason. Obviously, back to his Houston days, he was very, very reliant on the whistle. Getting foul calls. Well, of course, maybe not so much this year. I don't know what's going on with the officiating this year. But typically, the officials let a lot go from the second. I always say the playoffs officially start in the second round moving forward. Second round, conference finals, NBA finals. The refs let a lot of stuff go that they don't let go in the regular season. And that has also hurt James Harden, that he has not, shown an ability to adjust to. But as I watch Inside the NBA as much as I can. I freaking love that show. It's the best show on television in the world of sports. But I thought Shaq, or was it Shaq or was it Chuck? One of the two that made the good point. Look, it's a best of 3 series now. Philadelphia has to win at least one game in Miami. Miami does not have to win in Philadelphia. Miami, the simple thing, the way to go about it is win 2 home games. Win 2 home games, and we're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. They don't have to win in Philly. Philly has to win in Miami. So that's the pressure on James Harden. You were brought here to have games like last night. Can you do it again? Because we know, and Danny Green pointed this out after the game. Danny Green's a seasoned vet. He's been there and done that. He's won 3 rings. As I pointed out, role players are always better at home. We know this. And Miami can't possibly shoot as bad as they did last night from 3. They were 7 of 35 from 3-point range. Now, everybody's talking about Duncan Robinson not playing, and everybody's saying, those who sort of defended Eric Spoelstra's decision to bench Duncan Robinson. I love Eric Spoelstra. I've loved him since the days of the Heatles, when everybody criticized Eric Spoelstra. I've always loved him as a head coach. But everybody's talking about, Duncan Robinson's a defensive liability. Well, he didn't play last night, and you still couldn't get stopped. So, he's going to be a defensive liability, but at least you have another shot maker on the floor if you're the Miami Heat. So I expect Duncan Robinson to get far more minutes than he's gotten, certainly in the last 2 games. I expect Tyler Hero to hit shots more efficiently than he has been. You look at guys, Kyle Lowry has been horrible in the series. I expect him to step up at Miami. Victor Oladipo. Bam Adebayo had a pretty good game last night. And Jimmy Butler, as I mentioned, scored 40 points. So he showed up. So the Heat's 2 best players, they were fine. You don't have to worry about them. It's the role players. They're going to be better in Miami. Philadelphia's role players are not going to be as effective in Miami. Embiid's going to do what Embiid's going to do. He's going to get you, 25 to 30 points, 12 to 14 rebounds. Harden doesn't necessarily have to give you 30. Can he hit big shots? Can he control the pace of the game? He does that, Philly can win in Game 5. And they can win in a possible Game 7 if it gets to that point on the road in Miami. And Harden, please stay away from the strip clubs in Miami. Please. Like, just for one series, like, please stay away. Trying to win a championship here. All right. Phoenix Suns, Dallas Mavericks, a series that I predicted would go 7 games. After the first 2 games, I thought I thought that thing was a wrap. Especially after game 2 when, Dallas goes in the fourth quarter. They're only down 6 and they end up losing by 20 plus because Chris Paul does what he's done all postseason long, doing what he's done his entire postseason career, and that's, show up in the fourth quarter of big games. Devin Booker was phenomenal at the end of game 2. And you had the bigs like Bismack Biyombo, JaVale McGee playing well. But the series shifted to Dallas, and the Mavericks flat out took care of business. They were much better in the defensive end of the floor. Obviously, again, the role players stepped up at home. I thought Jason Kidd, and I love Monty Williams, who, by the way, congrats to Monty Williams, won Coach of the Year, was just announced. Jason Kidd vastly outcoached Monty Williams in the last 2 games. I thought Monty Williams, when Chris Paul got into foul trouble, managed his minutes horribly the rest of the game. But it's a best of 3 series now. Phoenix has the home court advantage, and I feel like, to me, I think the Suns are in more trouble than the Heat are. If we're talking about the 2 series that are both two games to 2, to me, I have more faith in the Heat's role players and roster and coaching in general in Miami as opposed to Phoenix. Because here's the thing about Phoenix. To me, they have to win game 5. I think if they lose game 5, they're not winning the series. Because if you lose game 5, you're going on the road to Dallas in game 6, and what's everybody gonna be talking about? You had a 2-0 lead in the finals last year. You were 2 games away from an NBA championship, and you lost 4 straight and lost the championship. I promise you, if Phoenix loses game 5, everybody's going to be talking about that. You dominated the first 2 games, you're up 2-0, and now you're going to a road game 6 where the best player in the series plays for the other team, and now you're really stuck in it now. I mean, Dallas won these 2 games where Luka didn't play particularly well. I mean, you look at his now. Obviously, Chris Paul did not play well in either games 3 or 4. Book was better in game 4 than game 3. But if you look at Luka's numbers, game 3, he scored 26, but was an inefficient 26, 11 for 25 from the field. Now, to his credit, he almost had a triple-double, was an assist shy. But it was guys like Reggie Bullock, hitting 4 threes. Dorian Finney-Smith doing the same. Jalen Brunson hitting 10 shots. Off the bench. Maxi Kleber went 6 for 9 from the field. And then in game 4, Luka, I thought, was worse in game 4 than he was in game 3. He gave you 26 points on 9 for 25 from the field and an abysmal 1 for 10 from 3-point range. But Dorian Finney-Smith, I don't know what got into him yesterday. He went crazy. I believe he hit 8 threes. Yeah, 8 for 12 from 3-point range, 8 for 13 for the field in total, gave you 24 points. You look at guys like Jalen Brunson gave you 18. You had 3 scorers off the bench who went in double figures. Guys like Dinwiddie. And so there's pressure on Phoenix. There's more pressure on Phoenix, I should say, than there is on Dallas. Much more pressure. But listen, Dallas is a dangerous team for the simple fact that they are improved defensively. The fact that Luka doesn't have to give you 35 to 40 in a playoff game, and you could still win. Because you look at the last 2 years, Luka's, the games that he led them to victory in, he had phenomenal games. He had phenomenal games in some of their losses because some of the other guys just didn't step up. Porzingis obviously was still there. Jalen Brunson hadn't matured as a player the way he's gotten to now. So, I think this is you saw how the Dallas role players stepped up when Luka missed the first 3 games of the first round against the Utah Jazz. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the series plays out moving forward because the pressure's on Chris Paul and it's on Devin Booker. And I think some of it's on DeAndre Ayton. I don't know what's with this guy. I really don't. But this guy gets bullied around sometimes. You're talking about a dude who is 7 feet tall. More times than not, he is the longest player on the floor. He is a phenomenal presence down low on the defensive end. Chris Paul gets him set up in beautiful positions down low. He can shoot the mid-range if he has to. But man, there are maybe some of it is just that he's a young player. Maybe I'm being too hard on him. But I swear, folks, the guy comes and he goes. And when he goes, he is gone. I don't know if it's a mental thing with him, but dang, you don't know what you're getting, home or road, from one DeAndre Ayton. Dallas, I think, feels more sure of their role players than Phoenix does of DeAndre Ayton at times. So, that's the question for the Suns. But in my opinion, obviously, I think we'd all agree there's more pressure on the Suns to win Game 5 because the Suns were the best team in basketball this season. They won 64 games. They had the best record in the league by 8 games. They won 64. Second place was the Memphis Grizzlies with 56. I mean, Phoenix had injury after injury and still just kept on keeping on throughout the duration of the regular season, 82 games. As we all know, postseason is a different animal. Chris Paul has been great in his career in the postseason. Devin Booker, in his brief postseason career dating back to last season, he's been great. They got to show up tomorrow night. If they don't, and Phoenix goes down 3-2, I promise you, everybody's going to be talking about, wait, see, they did it last year. They went up 2-0, in a position to lose 4 straight. What you going to do? Now, to the more serious incident, we had another fan acting like a complete jerk during an NBA playoff game. We saw multiple instances of this. Not necessarily fans acting like jerks, but definitely fans acting a little wild in Minnesota. I mean, it was like I think all of their playoff games, a fan ran out in the court. So it's like, man, what is going on? You've had instances, obviously, in Boston and so on and so forth. Well, now add the Dallas Mavericks. Well, it's not fair to the Dallas Mavericks to say that. Add Dallas to that. Reportedly, a fan of the Mavericks the report said put hands on Chris Paul's mother. Apparently, I think went after his wife as well, Chris Paul's wife, all while Chris Paul's children are watching this. They're all at the game. CP3's mother, wife, kids. I don't know if any other family members were there, but that's who was included in this report. Now, we don't have any video of this. What we do have video of is the fan being removed from the arena. And I'm not going to show the video on this show because, frankly, I'm not going to give this kid any airtime. But what you could see is the security for the Mavericks removes him from the arena. It looks like, I think it was I don't know if it was his mom, his aunt, the woman who is with him. And Chris Paul, he had fouled out by this point. So he's on the bench and he is having to be restrained by teammates. He's saying something like, I think it was like, I'll see you outside or something. Like, and who could blame his frustration? When are fans, and look, it's not fair to include all fans because look, the reality of the situation is this is like 1 or 2 fans a game, right? The NBA arenas hold close to 20,000 people. It ain't all 20,000 people. If it was, it'd be just a mess. But the problem is these issues with fans getting involved with players or players' families are getting much more common than they should. I don't know if it's the fact. I know people talked about last season when these things were happening. Oh, people have been cooped up in their houses. And it's like, so? You still don't act like that. Like, a concept that you were taught in kindergarten, that I was taught in kindergarten. Heck, I might have been taught this in preschool. Keep your hands to yourself. It's not that hard. And of all days, you put your hands on Chris Paul's mother. Any day is inexcusable. Let's make that clear. But on Mother's Day, really? You got to be some kind of low to assault a woman any day. But Mother's Day? Really? This is what we're doing now? And I got to admit, Shams Charania posted what the American Airlines Center, the arena in Dallas, and what the Mavericks said about the incident. I gotta admit, I think the punishment was way too. I'm not somebody who is just throw the book at him in any situation. I think that should only be reserved for the worst of the worst. I think this kid can be included in that. Because this is from Shams Charania, the great reporter for The Athletic. American Airlines Center and Dallas Mavericks security and executives have concluded the investigation. That was one quick investigation into the incident involving the Paul family. Talking about Chris Paul. 2 unruly fans attempted to give unwanted hugs and have conversations with members of the Paul family on the public concourse of American Airlines Center. American Airlines Center security responded immediately once notified by the family, and the fans were swiftly ejected from the game. The fans involved in the incident will not be allowed to return to the arena until 2023, next year. So, I don't know why. It's just basically a year suspension, if you will. But according to this report, it says unwanted hugs. If a person doesn't want to hug you, okay, don't force yourself onto them. Have we not learned, especially in the last 5 years, if a person does not want physical contact, back off. They don't want to hug you. They don't want any part of you. Okay, back away then. Don't force yourself onto somebody. Apparently, people still don't understand this concept. Again, keep your hands to yourself, man. It's not that hard. The Paul family is not trying to bother you. They're just trying to watch their, son, husband, dad, brother. I'm not sure, who all was there. I do know it was his mom, his wife, and his kids. But come on, man. They're just trying to, be there to support Chris Paul. And you're trying to get in the way of that. It's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. This fan behavior has got to stop. It has got to stop at some point. I hope this doesn't continue, period. But I especially hope that this doesn't come to mar, a Western Conference or, a conference finals game in general, and especially an NBA finals game. And again, these idiots don't reflect all fans. I've been to plenty sporting events. The vast majority of fans are great. They really are. They want to go to the game, take in the sights and sounds, cheer for their team. That's what the vast majority of fans want to do. But you have some people who try to ruin that. And you can include these people in that group. So this has got to stop. It's got to stop. And I can't imagine how you couldn't be on the Paul family side in this matter. Moving on from that, last topic of the day. Again, appreciate everybody stopping by as always. So great to be back in this chair doing this show. The Phoenix Suns, the Boston Celtics, and the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee currently has a 2-1 lead. Game 4 is in 20 minutes. So certainly after I finish the show, I'm going to go up and watch Game 4. But Game 3 was played Saturday afternoon in Milwaukee. Series tied 1-1. Of course, whoever wins takes the lead and has an opportunity, if they win 2 more games, to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Many people have made the argument that this could really be the Eastern Conference Finals because these could be the 2 best teams out east. And a lot of folks, it was a great, to me, it was the best game of the weekend. I mean, you're talking about coming down the wire. No team really, truly pulled away at any stage in the game. But late in the game, the Boston Celtics are down by 3 points after 2 clutch shots by both Giannis and Drew Holiday. By the way, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I mean, folks, this guy's ridiculous. He's phenomenal. 42 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 16 for 30 from the field. He's I tweeted the other day, if you combined LeBron and Shaq's skill set, now Giannis isn't the passer LeBron is, obviously, but if you combine their skill set, it turns into Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's what he is. He is a mixture of LeBron and Shaq. I've said it multiple times in the show. He's the best player within 5 feet of the basket since Shaq. So he was great. I mean, that goes without saying. But late in the game, seconds remaining. The Boston Celtics are down by 3 points, and they are trying to, obviously hit a three to tie the game and presumably send it to overtime. And I'll show it. Here's for the streaming audience. The inbound goes to Jaylen Brown. Brown's backing down Drew Holiday. He gets shut off nicely. Pass it to Marcus Smart, who gets fouled with 4.6 seconds left by Drew Holiday. Here it is right here. And they called it on the floor. They said it was a reach-in foul, not a shooting foul. We are showing the extra slow-mo version of it right now on the podcast. And it is, split second. In my opinion, if you see it here, I think Drew Holiday fouls him, milliseconds before Marcus Smart goes into his upward shooting motion. Now, you could make the case, those who have said, hey, this is a three-point shooting foul, you could make the case that, hey, there's 5 seconds left. Marcus Smart's just trying to get up a shot. And in Marcus Smart's mind, he is a veteran. This is his 7th year in the league. He's thinking, okay, this is probably my best shot, or our best shot to tie this game is me getting fouled on a three-pointer and going to the line and hopefully for the Celtics hitting all 3 free throws. Of course, he did not. It was, they were in the bonus. The Bucks did not have a foul to give. So it was 2 free throws, not 3. Smart hit the first and then perfectly missed the second free throw, got the offensive rebound. The Celtics really got 4 cracks at a little bank-in shot down low to tie the game and send it to overtime. But Al Horford's tip last attempt went in, but it was after the buzzer, so the shot did not count, and the Bucks won 103-101 to take the lead in the series. But I have heard from a lot of Celtics fans, hey, we were robbed. And you know me. And by the way, I've been, like I said earlier today's show, I don't know what's gotten into these officials. This is as bad officiating in the second round as I can remember. Honestly, like it's been really poor. But the notion that the Celtics, I've always been on this. Anytime there's a bad call, even a controversial call, and I think this would go into the controversial category. I don't think you could really call this a bad call, because it wasn't obvious. It wasn't like, oh, that's clearly Smart's going the three-point motion. I don't think you could say clearly. You could say he went to three-point shot. You can make that argument, but it's not cut and dry obvious, right? And so the notion, I've always been against this, that we lost the game because of one bad call. That's not the case. Do folks realize that the road team, the Boston Celtics, shot double the free throws as the Milwaukee Bucks? The Milwaukee Bucks took 17 free throws. The Boston Celtics took 34. Ultimately, and by the way, both teams shot the exact same percent from the free throw line. So no huge difference there. But the Celtics got double the free throw attempts as the Bucks did. On the road, that never happens. We always hear about home cooking. Anytime the officiating it really favors the home team, they say, "Oh, it's home cooking," right? Not in Milwaukee on Saturday evening. So I don't know. The Celtics lost the game because Jason Tatum, who's been great for the vast majority of the playoffs, Jason Tatum played awful. Now you could say, Jaylen Brown possibly as well, but Jaylen Brown did give you 27. Jason Tatum was terrible. You can't score 10 points, go 4 for 19 from the field, and 0 for 6 from 3 if you're the best player in a championship team. You can't. Like that was awful. So I expect a big bounce back performance from Tatum tonight, and I'm going to pick the Celtics to win Game 4, simply because I picked this to go 7 games. I think Boston is a championship-level team. I think they will respond like a championship-level team should. I think they'll tie the series. Ultimately, I'll still pick Milwaukee to win the series and, frankly, win the Eastern Conference. But Boston, because easily, they went on a huge run in the fourth quarter, coming back to take the lead. But again, obviously, Giannis, Drew Holiday hitting 2 clutch shots there at the end to give them the 3-point lead, and ultimately they won by 2. But I expect the Celtics to respond the way they should, tie this series up, because simply put, I think if Milwaukee wins tonight, this baby's a wrap. It's over. Boston's not forcing a Game 7 down 3-1. I just can't see it. Maybe they force a Game 6. That's entirely possible. Having Game 5 at home, but I can't see them winning this series or even forcing a Game 7 if they go down 3-1. So with that, man, that was fun. That is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Be sure to catch Carving It Up on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and on Twitter, our normal streaming platforms. Also, if you've been listening to the Carving It Up podcast as well, we appreciate that. You've been listening on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Anchor, as well as wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, on those podcasting platforms and on YouTube, be sure to check out episode 4 of the Carving It Up U.S. Presidents Edition, the series that myself, my co-host Isaac Lawson have been doing, covering all 46 of the U.S. presidents, going through presidential history. It's always been an interest of mine, and so we're putting it together into a 10-part series. Episode 4, be sure to check it out now. We've gotten so much positive feedback from the series thus far. Both Isaac and myself really appreciate it. And so episode 5 will be available on Saturday. More information on that in the future later this week. But episode 4 is available now. Be sure to go check it out on YouTube as well as our normal podcasting platforms. And be sure to check out Carving It Up Live on social media as well. Instagram at Carving It Up Podcast. Twitter at Carving It Up Pod. Just Carving It Up Pod. And then on Facebook, search Bryson Carver, and the Carving It Up logo should pull up right there on the search bar. So have a great week, everybody. Be safe out there. God bless you all. Peace out. Jokic winning 2 straight MVPs. It's a joke. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.